Before diving into this story, hit that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe, because here, every story is a new emotion you won't want to miss. The storm outside Manhattan's skyline was nothing compared to the storm inside Evelyn Carter's heart. The young woman sat at the edge of her bed, clutching the thin envelope her mother had pressed into her hand only hours ago. It contained no words of love, no comfort, only a contract and a reminder of duty. Her family's debts had swallowed every ounce of freedom she had left, and now, to protect the only person she cared about, her younger brother Daniel, she was about to sign away her future. The name printed on the contract carried power, reputation, and the kind of danger no one dared to speak aloud in hushed circles. Adrian Blackwell, billionaire, real estate tycoon, ruthless in business, feared by rivals, admired and resented in equal measure. He was the kind of man the tabloids loved to describe as cold-blooded, untouchable, and perfectly sculpted to dominate not only boardrooms, but the lives of everyone around him. Evelyn had never met him, yet tonight she would. The deal was clear. Adrian needed a wife, not for love, not even for companionship, but for pride, image, and control. Rumors had begun circling his empire, whispers of instability after a hostile takeover attempt. A marriage, especially one with a woman from an old but struggling family like Evelyn's, would silence gossip, cement alliances, and shield his reputation. For him, it was strategic armor. For her, it was sacrifice. The clock ticked toward the dinner hour as Evelyn's car pulled up to the Blackwell penthouse tower. The building loomed against the storm, glass shimmering like the walls of a fortress. She stepped out, rain clinging to her hair, dress hugging her body like borrowed confidence. Inside, golden chandeliers sparkled, marble floors echoed beneath her heels, and then she saw him. Adrian Blackwell stood at the far end of the hall, framed by tall windows that overlooked the city like a kingdom under his rule. He turned slowly, his dark eyes locking on hers with a piercing intensity that made her chest tighten. He was devastatingly handsome, with sharp cheekbones, perfectly tailored suit, and a gaze that cut through layers of defense she didn't know she had. "You're late," he said, his voice calm but edged with command. "Traffic," she replied, forcing steadiness, though her heart was sprinting. He studied her as if she were a piece on a chessboard, a move he had anticipated yet still needed to assess. Finally, he motioned to the seat across from him at the long glass table set for two. "Sit, let's not waste time." Dinner was a performance more than a meal. Adrian spoke little, observing instead, while Evelyn pushed food around her plate, her thoughts on Daniel's face when she had promised him she would fix everything. At last, Adrian broke the silence. "You know what I need. This marriage is a facade, nothing more. We sign, we present ourselves as united, and the world sees stability. You will be cared for, your family will be safe. But make no mistake, this is not about romance." The words stung, though she had expected them. She raised her chin, meeting his gaze. "I'm not naive. I'm not here for your money. I'm here because someone I love depends on me. If that means living in your shadow, so be it. But don't think you can treat me like one of your acquisitions." For a moment, surprise flickered across his face, gone as quickly as it appeared. "Interesting," he murmured. "Most people tremble in my presence. You challenge me? I have nothing left to lose," she whispered. Adrian leaned back, fingers steepled. "Then perhaps this arrangement will be tolerable." The ceremony happened days later in the most lavish yet soulless affair Evelyn had ever endured. Cameras flashed, journalists whispered, and Adrian's hand tightened around hers like a steel chain as they exchanged vows that meant nothing beyond legal obligation. Yet when his eyes briefly met hers during the exchange, she caught something, an emptiness, a loneliness that made her wonder if there was more beneath the billionaire mask. Life in the Blackwell mansion began with silence. Adrian's schedule was consumed with meetings, calls, and late nights at the office. Evelyn found herself wandering halls filled with art worth more than her entire family's estate, yet every corner felt cold. The staff was polite but distant, trained not to linger or speak. It was a palace, but also a prison. One night, unable to sleep, Evelyn descended the marble staircase and found Adrian in the library, whiskey in hand, staring at an old photograph. He didn't hear her at first. She saw his jaw tense, his grip tighten, before he noticed her presence. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "Neither should you," she replied, folding her arms. His gaze lingered on her longer than it should have. "You think you know what you signed up for, Evelyn. But there are things about me, things that could destroy you if you're not careful." Instead of fear, she felt curiosity bloom. "Maybe I'm not as fragile as you think." For the first time, he smiled, though it was faint, fleeting, careful. That kind of fire gets people burned. The days turned into weeks, and tension simmered between them like a storm refusing to break. He was arrogant, proud, infuriatingly in control, yet beneath his coldness, she glimpsed flashes of humanity, a pause before answering her. A subtle act of protection when a journalist cornered her with invasive questions. A softness when he asked about Daniel, though he disguised it with indifference. "Why didn't you tell me about him?" His voice was low, dangerous. "Because you never asked," she shot back. "Because you don't care enough to know anything about me beyond what suits your image." He stepped closer, anger flashing in his gaze. "Don't mistake my silence for indifference, Evelyn. You are my wife. Whatever past you had, it ends now." Something inside her snapped. "This marriage was never about love, Adrian. You made that clear. You can't chain my heart just because your pride can to stand the thought of competition." For the first time, his composure cracked. He looked at her not with coldness, but with raw vulnerability, as if her words had pierced deeper than she intended. "You think this is about pride?" he whispered. "You don't understand what's at stake." "What don't I understand?" she demanded. But he turned away, retreating once more behind his walls. The days after the gala were strained. Adrian grew more protective, more controlling, as Christopher began appearing wherever Evelyn went, at charity luncheons, at galleries, even once outside the Blackwell mansion. He spoke of the past, of promises they once made, of what could have been if life had been kinder. "You don't belong in his world," Christopher told her one afternoon, his voice laced with passion. "You belong with someone who sees you, not someone who uses you." And though Evelyn denied it, a part of her longed for the simplicity of what Christopher represented. But her heart was no longer simple. Against her will, it had begun to beat differently whenever Adrian was near. She hated his pride, his secrets, his control. Yet she craved the moments when his mask slipped, when the man behind the empire revealed a glimpse of his soul. One night, unable to ignore her curiosity, Evelyn returned to the library where she had first caught Adrian staring at that photograph. This time, she entered silently, moving closer until she could see the picture in his hand. It was of a woman, beautiful, elegant, with eyes hauntingly similar to Adrian's. He looked up, startled, rage and pain colliding in his expression. "What are you doing?" "Who is she?" Evelyn asked, her voice trembling. He snatched the photo away, shoving it into a drawer. "No one. Don't lie to me. You said this marriage was only for show, but I see it now. You're hiding something, someone. Who is she?" His chest rose and fell sharply, his fists clenched. Finally, his voice broke through, raw and unguarded. "She was my sister." Evelyn froze. "She died because of me," Adrian continued, his voice cracking. "And I will not let anyone close enough to suffer that same fate again." The revelation struck like lightning. It explained the loneliness in his eyes, the fortress he had built around his heart, the fear that had shaped every decision. But before Evelyn could respond, before she could comfort him, the library door burst open. Christopher stood there, fury in his eyes. "I warned you, Evelyn," he said, his voice hard. "He will only destroy you." and I won't let that happen. Adrian rose to his full height, his expression darkening like a storm. You've crossed the line, Hole. The room pulsed with danger, with pride and history and unspoken love tangled in a web too tight to unravel. Evelyn's heart pounded as she realized the truth. She was caught between two men, two lives, and two futures. And whichever choice she made would change everything. The silence in the library was suffocating, thick with rage and unspoken truths. Adrian and Christopher stood on opposite sides of the room, like predators ready to strike, while Evelyn felt as though the floor beneath her might give way at any moment. Enough, she said, her voice breaking through the tension. Both of you stop. Neither man moved. Their eyes locked, pride and fury fueling an invisible war. Adrian's jaw clenched, his fists tight at his sides, while Christopher's hands curled as though he might rip down the walls themselves. You don't know what he's capable of, Evelyn, Christopher spat. His sister is dead because of him. He hides behind power and money, but he's poison. Adrian's chest rose sharply, his face carved with anguish. You don't know a damn thing about me. And he turned his dark gaze on Evelyn. You don't know what kind of danger you're standing in? Then tell me. Evelyn cried. Her voice echoed against the marble walls, her tears threatening to spill. Tell me the truth, Adrian. No more secrets. If you want me to stay, if you want this marriage to mean anything, I need the truth. For the first time since she had met him, Adrian Blackwell looked shaken, vulnerable. He moved closer, his voice low, raw, trembling with something that felt too much like grief. Why didn't you tell me about him? His voice was low, dangerous. Because you never asked, she shot back. Because you don't think my sister, Anna, trusted the wrong people. She believed love would save her, but she was betrayed. She got caught in a web of lies, tied to a man who wanted my company destroyed. I couldn't protect her. I was too proud, too blind. She died because I wasn't there. And since then, I swore I'd never let anyone close enough to become my weakness again. Evelyn's breath caught. The weight of his confession pressed down on her, not as an excuse, but as a wound he had carried alone for years. She wanted to reach for him, to ease his pain, but Christopher stepped forward, fury burning in his eyes. You see, even he admits it. He ruins everyone he loves. No, Evelyn whispered, her gaze never leaving Adrian. He blames himself, but that doesn't make it true. And it doesn't make him unworthy of love. Adrian's eyes widened, as though her words had pierced through the iron walls he had built. For a moment, silence filled the room, broken only by the storm raging outside. Then Christopher's voice sliced through. You're making a mistake, Evelyn. He'll destroy you just like he destroyed her. Come with me. Leave him. You don't owe him anything. Evelyn's heart twisted. Christopher was safety, familiarity, a reminder of who she had been before the Blackwell name became her prison. But Adrian was the storm, the man who challenged her, who infuriated her, who made her feel alive in ways she had never expected. He was danger, yes, but he was also the only one who saw the fire inside her and didn't try to extinguish it. Her choice was clear, but before she could speak, Adrian stepped between her and Christopher. His voice was calm but firm. She doesn't belong to either of us. But if she stays, it will be her choice, not yours. It was the first time Evelyn had seen Adrian surrender his pride, not by force, but by trust. Christopher's expression hardened. Then choose, Evelyn. Him or me. The storm rattled the windows as Evelyn drew a shaky breath. She turned first to Christopher, the boy who had once held her hand in childhood, who now stood before her as a man desperate to rewrite their past. You'll always be part of my story, Christopher, she said softly. But you're not my future. His face fell, and without another word, he stormed out, the echo of his footsteps fading into the night. Evelyn turned back to Adrian, her chest rising with the weight of her decision. I should hate you for dragging me into this marriage. for keeping secrets, for pushing me away at every turn. But somehow, in the middle of all that, I fell in love with you. Adrian froze, the mask he had worn for so long slipping away completely. Evelyn, don't, she whispered. Don't tell me I'll be safer without you. Don't tell me love is weakness. Because I've seen the truth. You're not weak, Adrian. You're terrified of losing someone again. But love isn't what destroyed your sister. Lies did, pride did. And I won't let you make the same mistake with me. Her words cracked something inside him. His eyes glistened with emotions he had buried for years. Slowly, he reached for her, his hand trembling as it brushed against her cheek. I don't know how to love without destroying everything I touch. Then let me show you, she said. For the first time, Adrian pulled her into his arms without fear, without hesitation. The kiss they shared wasn't born of arrangement or duty, but of raw, undeniable truth. It was messy, desperate, and utterly real. Days turned into weeks, and the world continued to test them. Rumors swirled about Christopher's sudden return, about cracks in the Blackwell Empire, about whether the marriage was truly for love or convenience. That Evelyn and Adrian faced it together. Adrian began to soften, though never losing his edge. He allowed Evelyn into his world, not as a pawn, but as a partner. She sat in on meetings, challenged his decisions, and earned the respect of those who had once dismissed her. Daniel thrived under their care, his laughter filling the once empty halls of the mansion. Slowly, the Blackwell estate transformed from a prison into a home. But the true test came when Christopher struck one final blow. He leaked information to the press, exposing the arranged nature of their marriage, painting Evelyn as a gold digger and Adrian as a manipulator. Headlines screamed betrayal. Investors panicked. For a moment, everything threatened to crumble. Yet this time, Adrian didn't retreat into silence. He stood before the cameras, Evelyn at his side, and spoke words no one expected. Yes, our marriage began as an arrangement, he admitted. But it became something real. I was a man who believed pride mattered more than love, control more than trust. And then she taught me I was wrong. She saved me from myself. Evelyn is not my weakness. She is my strength. The scandal that was meant to destroy them instead ignited admiration. The public, starved for authenticity, believed in their love more than ever. For once, Adrian Blackwell wasn't untouchable. He was human. And Evelyn stood beside him, not in his shadow, but in the light they had created together. On a quiet night weeks later, Evelyn stood once again on the balcony where it had all begun. Adrian joined her, slipping his hand into hers. "Do you regret it?" he asked softly. She smiled, her eyes on the glittering city below. Not for a second. Because this isn't the story of an arranged marriage, Adrian. It's the story of how two broken people chose to stop hiding and start living. He kissed her hand, his gaze tender in a way she had once thought impossible. Then let's never stop. And as the storm clouds finally cleared, Evelyn knew that love had not only survived their pride and their secrets, it had transformed them both forever.